everyone, welcome back to the Curious Shelf. You are joining me on Belgian National Day. It is the 21st of July, so you can join me for waffles, chocolate, fries, and everything else Belgian. Typical to a public holiday. It is raining today. But anyway, welcome to new subscribers and welcome back to existing subscribers. This is the Curious Shelf in Brussels. And yes, you are joining me today to a VR to Tarot and Witchery regarding the tag Deck FOMO. So this is a topic that I think that we've all been discussing for, well, I've been hearing it for the last few years. I know many people have done like this discussion on minimalism and cutting down and then buying and deck hauls and deck fails and God knows what else in between. But anyway, I thought it was an interesting tag, and I'm going to jump in. So first of all, before I go into my responses to these questions, the prompts, just a bit of a disclaimer. I think that FOMO is a much broader issue. I don't think it's just relevant to tarot, and I think it's a really broad issue. And I say that because I believe that the tarot oracle deck FOMO thing is as a subsequent of the broader umbrella that we're all suffering from. Well, maybe not everyone's suffering from, but basically many people have noticed it or experienced it in certain parts of the world. That's one thing. The other thing is that I don't think that regarding tarot and oracle decks, FOMO is the only aspect of this issue. I think FOMO is kind of like one limb, one area. I think there's a much broader discussion and an umbrella that it's sitting under. So that's the other thing. And then finally, just, these are just my thoughts. Some of this is ad lib. I was going to do a whole scripted reply with points and everything. And I was like, oh, for heaven's sake, just like discuss these things because that's what it's about. I don't think it's meant to be some kind of an exam. Well, at least I hope not. One, and two, opinions and thoughts change over time. I think that's really important to remember. And then finally, it is a discussion, and I don't believe there's any right or wrong. It's just a mixture of thoughts. It's a mixture of personal experiences, personal learnings, all of that. So anyway, hopefully we've got those things out of the way. And now I'm going to move on to the very first question, which is, what triggers deck FOMO for you? So, before I forget, I just want to say, FOMO is a fear of basically missing out on something, like an experience or something, a feeling of not being able to access something and missing out on it, and not being able to that the idea that it could make one's life better if they had it. So I say that because I actually looked up the definition, and that's what I found. Bear with me, I just dropped some notes. But so that was what I looked up, and that's what I found. So that's what overall FOMO is, fear of missing out. Interesting. Right. Okay. So the first question is, going on to that again, what triggers deck FOMO for you or for me? I think I was going to answer this going, I don't get deck FOMO. And then I thought, no, wait, I do. But then there's a bit more to it than that. But I think what always triggers FOMO for me is the experience somebody else is having. And therefore, I vicariously either want to live it through them or I want to obtain the item for them. This is not just tarot and oracle decks. This will be a nice t-shirt. This will be an outfit. This will be a holiday snap I see on Facebook. This will be an Instagram post and a reel. All of that stuff can trigger FOMO for me because I want to all of a sudden live that experience. It is a key tactic of all marketing. So deck FOMO for me is triggered by just seeing someone else's experience, seeing the item, seeing what it's kind of like, how it's presented, the vibrancy of it, the particular artistic details, seeing somebody handle it, when it's tarot and oracle decks, if they're shuffling it, all of that is like ching, 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 ching. It's like my head is going, oh my God, that's so nice. And behind it, I know that I want their experience. And there are definitely tarot tubers who have wonderful experiences with tarot decks, which I believe are genuine. And my brain goes into, I want that, so I need to have that deck so I can experience it the way he or she is experiencing it. And I say that because I have myself seen myself go through that, and I know for a fact, or maybe it's not for a fact, but my heart tells me that person has sat with that deck, worked with it, has given it time and attention. So me purchasing it is not going to do that. But that's how deck FOMO is triggered for me. That's one. The other thing is that if there is a group or a set of people that have the item, I definitely go into it because, again, I want to belong. I am a deeply, deeply strange person. I don't do well in groups, and even certain things that I need to be participating in for my own health and well-being. I am a lone wolf in those areas where there are other lone wolves. So you can imagine, like, I'm like that. And therefore, a part of my survival instinct is that any kind of grouping or any kind of like set of people that I think I can participate in, their items, their ways, I want to be a part of. So that is always dangerous grounds for me. And I say all of this because I learned this before I went into tarot and oracle deck collection. Not before I purchased a tarot oracle deck, which was back in 2014, 2015. And I always talk about that because we had such a little selection of tarot and oracle decks that, like, I bought 4 and I thought, wow, I've got so much, you know, and they lasted 5 years. So that tells you a lot, right? So, the fact that we didn't have much choice actually helped me not buy a lot. And that is actually a key part of something I'm going to talk about later. So all of those things triggered deck FOMO for me. The other things that can trigger deck FOMO for me, but I don't act upon, but they definitely have, not maybe with tarot and oracle decks, but in other areas of my life, is anything that says limited edition, anything that says, it's been enhanced in some way, it has been revived, the quality has been changed, anything like that, anything that is part of a set, all does it for me, because it means that A, it is in a kind of like, the perfection would be, I need all of it. A, B, anything that is limited, it triggers scarcity. So a huge, huge issue. That is why whenever I read limited edition, it is the first thing that puts me off an item straight away. Even though I have items in that category, I'm going to explain later how I went about that. But initially when I say they've only produced this and that's it, I always sit there thinking, well, there goes the scarcity mindset. So there you go. I personally believe that, I'm not going to talk about specific tarot decks because I think it's going to upset people, and I don't want to do that because I'm not here to rain on people's parade. It's more kind of like, it's happened quite a lot where there are decks produced which are limited in quantity and numbers, and there is this kind of like fervor, I've got to have it. And what really upsets me sometimes is not so much myself today, but I can imagine someone who would have thought, oh, if I have that, maybe I'm going to have an experience that helps me feel whole and helps me heal. And then there was only 300 copies and they've all sold out. And this was even before I was collecting tarot and oracle decks. And I don't have that feeling of being whole and complete. But, Mary Smith over there, I'm just making up a name, or Joe Blogs over there, they have it and their life is whole and complete because they have this really special item. And I say that because there are going to be impressionable people who might feel that way, and I think it preys on that these days, especially because tarot and oracle decks are linked to spirituality and personal growth, which is, I think, very marketed as well, to be quite honest with you. But because of that, I think that it just makes people feel vulnerable, some people, and I don't like that. So that's why I'm saying it very openly. It's not to rain on someone's parade who has a deck like that. I have a couple of decks like that, but it's just to be really, really careful that there are going to be, I don't want to upset people, and I don't want to be part of something that's going, here is my limited, there are only 10 produced and I have one of them, because it doesn't make me feel good. So there you go. I hope that helps answer things in that specific category. Okay, so the next question is, what is a FOMO deck purchase you regret, or I regret? A FOMO deck purchase that I regret is there were 3 decks that I bought last year, indie decks. 2 have worked out for me, 1 didn't, and that was a really good example of like, that was not a good idea. So I had heard that Robert M. Plass does great decks. I really wanted the experience. There you go, ching, it's happening already. I bought 3 decks of his. I bought the reduced version of the his famous, oh god, it's now gone out of my head. Oh yeah, the Alchemical Tarot. I bought this one, the Magnus Opus. I love this deck, no regrets. This was amazing. I also bought his Tarot de Masse kind of like illustrated. Let me see if I can get that for you. See, this is me not planning enough ahead. But I also bought this one, which I really, really love. Again, no regret there. But I also bought Tarot of the Sevenfold Mystery. Went completely downhill. I didn't click with this deck, and truth be told, I knew when I was looking at it that I didn't click with it, and yet I bought it because I was like, well, you know, there's only so many copies here that we have, because remember, indie decks from the US are very, very at a reasonable, like, they're overpriced anyway, but even at their lowest price, they're very difficult to get hold of. So I was like, I need to get it. And I think the deck is beautiful. There's nothing wrong with the deck. I just don't think it's for me. So that was the slight regret I have. These are the edges. It is not used. It has been shuffled, but it's not used. I can put it back in its place. I am thinking of passing this on, but I'm not sure how, who, what, where. I want to be careful. I mean, you know, it's a beautiful deck. Now that I'm looking through it, I'm like, oh, I should work with this. But this is a really good example where when one's heart is not in it to make that investment. And I know that part of the regret was that I bought them all within like a few weeks of each other, which is always for me like, not a good idea. So I have to be very, very careful with things like that. So this was a bit of a fingers burn. Full disclaimer, I spent 47 euros on it, which is about, right now, I don't know, $52 US dollars. I know that's not huge currently compared to other prices. I am someone that counts my cents. Sorry, maybe you think I'm stingy, but I do. So for me, it was like, you know, that, I mean, right now with the prices that are going up in grocery stores, which I won't go into too much, but right now, you know, grocery bills in Brussels, which has got, Belgium has the highest, one of the highest supermarket prices in Western Europe, full stop. Belgium has one of the highest right now. Like, this could have covered food basically. So I'm a bit like, you know, I need to think about things before I do that, stuff like that. So I know, I don't want to do a bleeding heart things, but what I'm trying to say is that I'm very, very conscious when I spend like that. And so this was one that I regret, but you know, it's a beautiful deck. I'm not sure it's for me. So there you go. So you see, this is the card I didn't like. There's no need for this kind of nudity anymore these days. That's how I feel. So, but the deck is gorgeous, but yeah, it's beautiful. But I personally love his other 2 decks. I really, really have liked them. You know, I've been using them when I've been doing some readings from his books. Some things I agree with in his books, some things I don't. Yeah, I'm terribly fussy. I'm a fuss pot, but you know, at the end of the day, though, I mean, these are quality productions. I will give it that. You know, and you know, he obviously invests when he makes tarot and oracle deck. Oh, sorry, tarot decks. So you know, I think this is just more about me personally not getting along with the deck rather than the deck itself. So just full disclaimer. There is actually, I just remembered, another tarot deck that I bought, which I'm not going to show on the channel, which I'm not going to give the name of. I bought it because I know friends who have that deck, other tarot tubers, they love it, they show it, it is gorgeous. The reason why I regret it, and this is because I had a very bad experience with the seller. I'm not going to show it because I just don't want that bad karma of slagging them off. and then it comes back, and I don't want all of that stuff. I just had a bad experience there, and I felt as if there was one way they were treating people who show off their decks on video, and maybe because I don't tell everybody I do tarot sheet or anything, I just bought the deck as just a normal consumer, which is who I am anyway. You know, I just got a really crappy experience. The deck was opened, it was out of order, the description was not done properly on the website, so I didn't get exactly what I was looking to purchase, and it was a very you know, crude email written back to me when I spoke about it, and I just thought, okay, yeah, so that was also a waste, but it is what it is. So yeah, I'm just being here open and honest, so that somebody doesn't sit there thinking that, you know, I'm trying to be as genuine as I can, basically. How do you set limits? This is the meat and bone of it. First of all, what are the other questions again? So that I don't. Okay, so first of all, okay, so limits. Okay, so I first of all keep a record of every cent I spend. That includes a whole sheet on tarot oracle decks. And they get recorded. If they're pre-ordered, they're recorded. Their postage, if it's something coming outside of the EU and it's going through a customs transfer, which via Etsy it doesn't. I do a prepaid tax system via Etsy. But if it comes in, let's say from the original website, I have to go through the whole customs bit, which means more payments. All of that gets factored into the purchase. So I even have a bit where, let's say I've ordered a deck from last year and it's still got to arrive this year. I will have like the line, and I will have even approximate of what the bit at customs and the added VAT is going to cost me, which I still have to pay. So that is money already spent. Otherwise the deck is not released to me. So that is a really good way, I think, of limiting it, because once you start counting, or once anyone starts counting how much they're spending, there's a feeling of sickness. And as anyone knows with Excel, all you have to do is drag down the list and you can see exactly how much you're spending, because it just does all the calculations for you. So there you go. That's one way. Second is the rule of thumb that I use with my wardrobe, because I have in the past spent too much on clothing and fast fashion and all that crap, to be quite honest with you. The rule of thumb that I've learned about wardrobe is they say you don't need more hangers, you need to get rid of what you have. That's like the big thing, you know, when people do curated closets and stuff like that. It is pretty much the same thing with the shelf. The exception is certain books, because I am a huge book lover. I have stuff like my books, certain books that I've had since I was 19 to 20 years old, which I still love to this day, and I have absolutely no regrets of having them on my shelf. They're just a piece of me and a piece of my, and that's a separate video that will go to Boho Tarot and collection and all of that, so maybe I don't talk about that now. But there are exceptions in that sense. But for me, there's a mindfulness in all of that. I do not need to buy another Kallax IKEA shelf. I've thought about it. I don't. I just need to reduce what I have. So that's one thing. Secondly, I actually don't use that many decks in a month. I can't. I would just end up going, ugh, like I just vomit. So I have decks that I set up for the month ahead. I also do a lot of astrology, as some of you know, so sometimes I mix that in with my tarot and oracle, which I love doing. I love doing my Insta posts. So I think about all of that, and then I have to think, okay, so I've got, like, for example, right now I've got August, September, October, November, December left. I'm like, okay, so if I'm only using on average a certain number of decks per month, and some of them I have, some of them I will of course reuse. I don't do a Princess Di thing of like, I need to buy a new outfit every time, so I don't need to buy new tarot decks all the time. My monthly deep dives are the newest ones, because obviously I'm not going to redo those all the time. But except for that, you know, I just recycle as much as but just reuse as much as I can what I have. So I think like that. I think ahead of like, well, what are you actually going to use? And, you know, what is it that you really, really want? You know, and I say all of that to myself, and then I'm like, okay, you know, let's just be realistic. So I do a lot of that. So that's another thing, planning. So counting how much I spend, planning, not increasing the space on the shelf. That's number 3. Therefore, I limit, oh yeah, and this is a big one. When I see something that I like, I don't make an instant purchase. So there are 72 hours that are minimum that have to go in between me and the buy. So this is when I said that's 4. 5, fifth tip, platforms. A big one I'm going to say to you now. I have Kickstarter here, of course, I can buy Kickstarter. There is a big issue with Kickstarter, not only of how it's run, but the fact that some of it has actually poor information and misinformation on it. So it's a big issue for me. I work in legal affairs and regulatory affairs, so that's why it's a big issue for me when companies do that and platforms do that and sellers do that. I watch all of that. But going back to Kickstarter, first of all, the great thing is that Kickstarter is not an international one-stop shop, an IOSS, which is the EU system, which means it is a prepaid tax system. Kickstarter is not that because it's individual sellers on there, and Kickstarter has not set up the IOSS system. Therefore, I am not prepaying tax. I'm paying the tax as it enters customs, which means I pay not only the tax, but I pay the processing fee at customs. This is the big one that you've got to watch out for. Your country will charge you within the EU a processing fee at customs if you've not prepaid the tax. And that can be anything from 15 to 20 euros, 5 euros, so equivalent to 10 US dollars, 15, 20 US dollars. When you start seeing those numbers and they add on to your purchase and then you add on the tax, it's like mind-blowing how much it is. So Kickstarter is that kind of like I have to go through customs when the deck arrives. Private websites, people who sell only via their websites, there are other people that have to only go via customs. All of those deck purchases get completely reduced down to I really, 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 really want it, and then I have to set aside 100 euros, about 120 US dollars sometimes for those purchases. That is a staggering amount for me personally, maybe not for some. 120 US dollars on one deck. It is not going to happen in an instant fix. I will assure you, it's not going to happen where I'm going to scroll through Kickstarter and see something going, oh, I must have it. It's not going to happen because like 120 US dollars right now, that's like gas, heating, food. I've got to think about all of that. So yeah, like I think about that. So slowing down on the purchase and then thinking about the platform I'm buying from and all the shipping costs and all of that I need to factor in. And the other issue is because more and more increasingly we're buying things internationally, you know, and it applies to the US actually the same that would apply to EU and other places is, I'm not talking about tax here, but many sellers across the board are not looking at how much the transportation is costing the shipping. So some sellers are putting their shipping at like 30 US dollars and then 30 euros, and then some are at like 10 euros. And I'm like, people, are you actually looking at like which shipping system you're using? Because I can't afford to spend like half or over half the money of the deck on the shipping, or the equivalent of the deck even sometimes on shipping. So just noting all of that. So I think that the biggest tip here is also that before you buy, you kind of have to think about like the cost that it's going to cost. So all of those things are my tips for limiting it. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time because I don't get Kickstarter is so expensive here for us because of all the extra hassle and the money and blah, blah, blah. The other thing to remember, putting all of that aside, and I'm going on here a bit, the other thing to always remember is that remember tarot trends and fashions change. And because they change, a deck that you might order 6 months in advance, it could be 6 months later. You're like, it doesn't do it for me. And that's happened to me sometimes where I've really, really wanted a deck and I've pre-ordered it and I've got it. And about a few weeks after I've got it, I'm like, yeah, whatever. And so that is also a clue to me about how I'm buying. And I notice all those things. I think about them. I write about them. They're part of my daily, spirituality is not just cards and looking at the cards. Spirituality is like, how the hell am I affording these cards as well? So just like that's my thoughts. Okay, so trends is another issue, right? Okay, so how many decks do you have? I don't know. I haven't done a count lately. Well over 100, definitely. Tarot and Oracle, I don't know, 150, 180. I have no idea. I haven't done a count. I have also sold some recently, so I don't know. A lot, definitely. How many decks do you need? I need no decks. Tarot and Oracle is a wonderful experience and a part of my life that I'm really enjoying. I don't need them. It's a tool. It's a lovely tool. It's a tool I would miss if it was gone and taken away, for sure. But I'm gonna survive. For me, needs are how am I surviving? How am I thriving? Do I have friendships? Do I not have friendships? Am I lonely and isolated sometimes? Do I get bored? Do I get frustrated? How angry am I with things? How am I okay with things? Am I, all of those things are part of my needs. Sometimes I don't take care of my own needs, just to be really clear. And so for me, I've got to be really careful that I don't think a deck is going to fix that. A deck is not going to fix my loneliness. No. This is great fun, and I'm meeting a lot of people and I'm enjoying it. And I actually think that the decks and the Oracle decks are actually a bridge for me having connected with others, which I've really enjoyed and I'm so grateful for. So please don't take that I'm not grateful for my experiences or the items or everything that it creates and the new friendships I've made. But those things are the ones that I need. But the deck is a conduit to that. A deck is a conduit to the spirit that helps provide guiding messages. A deck is a beautiful instrument for art. A deck is an expression. But, I don't want to take it so much that I create this kind of like, and if I don't have them, I'm nothing. I just don't want that feeling. So, and I'm saying that as honestly as I can. So there you go. I know I'll miss decks if they were taken away from me. Like, there's a deck that I got out because I just wanted to show it, which, it's a mass market purchase that I made last autumn because I was intrigued. It's a low Scarabow deck. It's Tarot of Oppositions. It's just your bog standard low Scarabow stuff of showing the opposites. Like, low Scarabow has as above, so below. They have the, the tarot of in between, and they have kind of like so many decks that look at the standard Rider-Waite-Smith system from different angles. This is basically the same thing, but this time we're getting the reversals in built. I bought this last year, and I really, really enjoy it, So I just want to say that, like, sometimes in life, the most simple things are the things that we enjoy, and it's okay. And I got this out a few nights ago, and I was looking through it again, just sitting with it, looking through it, looking at the images, asking myself again that when I see this, so this is 8 of Cups moving on, and you can see there that, like, he's even just tossing the key because he's broken through, or she's broken through, they're walking away, they're liberated, they're moving on. And in this one, the other way around, they're actually walking into their own prison, it's not a wonderful departure. But, I'm just talking about this with you, but sometimes I like to sit there and just look at, like, how it's felt for me, where I'm not freeing myself. And I think I'm moving on, but making myself just more miserable. I'm going around in circles and I'm holding on, it's not. So I love looking at, like, cards sometimes again, not because they've come up in a reading or whatever for myself, but I just like looking at how maybe this artist has depicted it, and then maybe I'll get out other decks and compare and contrast. I just love doing stuff like that. So there you go. Going on from there, what is a deck purchase? What is a positive deck purchase because due to fear of missing out? A positive deck purchase due to fear of missing out. I actually have many. And I actually took out 2 and I thought, no, actually I'm going to show you the other ones. I'm going to have to reach back. Here they are. So this is the first one that I got. This was a FOMO because people were talking about it. I had seen Kelly from the Truth and Story show this and showed its twin in the same video. Sorry about that. And I wanted one of them at least. And I was like, I must have it. I couldn't do a spontaneous purchase because I don't think it was available at my indie shop at the time. Then it became available. I bought just one, which is the Light Visions Tarot. So this is the sepia toned. Beautiful cardstock, absolutely gorgeous. This has now been shuffled through because I have been on and off been going through it and looking at it and kind of like, you know, looking at how I'm going to work with her, him, her. This is an interesting one. I still don't know, him or her. I love this deck, and I bought it because I wanted that experience that I saw Kelly have from the Truth and Story. She's a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. That's my personal opinion. Hopefully I'm not being rude here when I say that, or offensive anyway. That's how I feel. I mean, out of many gifts Kelly has, but wonderful storytelling, wonderful depth of being able to look into a card. And I really, you know, wanted to vicariously experience that myself. I was like, oh, I want what she has, basically. So I bought this deck, and I was smitten with it. And at first I thought, no, it's too much for me. I also have, by the way, in the past I've suffered from a sense of deprivation. So I'm someone that sometimes when I get things, I kind of like can beat myself up thinking, so expensive, you shouldn't have spent that money, you don't have the right to something nice like that. So just so you can understand where sometimes my mind comes from. And I had to turn around and say to myself, no, it's okay. You can have this, it's okay. And so, yeah, there was a bit of a process for me. And that's really wonderful because this whole story is a journey of a person also fighting their demons and trying to understand, you know, their place in the world and in society, and trying to make their way through life. And there is such a beautiful, just, I feel like I'm in some kind of I'm looking through a certain lens when I look at these cards, obviously because of the way they've been done. And, you know, the minors in this deck are just exquisite. I mean, yeah, I like illustrated minors. The only thing I've always had with this deck is this border on the majors, but I'm kind of like finding peace with it. But anyway, I really, really found this a very positive purchase, and I felt very grateful that I had it. And yeah, and it's a beautiful deck. And the reason why I wanted to show it was because it says, you know, what has been a positive deck purchase for you, was because this was the beginning, and then I realized I want to try the Cosmovisions, because technically this is an oracle deck. I think it's very tarot, but it's technically an oracle deck. So I managed to get this one about 2 months after I got Light Visions, 2 or 3 months later, because this had run out of stock, and therefore this is another edition. So I think one of them is, my Light Visions is 4th edition, and as I thought, I think this one, yeah, this is 2nd edition, but that's fine. Yeah. So this I find is just gorgeous. This is still in order. Look at those sides. I love, love, love these decks. I'm starting to really appreciate the depth of work gone into creating this whole system, and each and every card created, every illustration done, very well thought through. Of course they have a panoramic effect when you lay them out, but still very well thought through. Bear with me a second, I'm just going to turn on the light because it might help, because yeah, I think it will help with this. Yeah, 5 of Lotuses, 5 of Cups, 10 of Lotuses, just 5 of Birds. I think that's just 5 of Swords there. You know, it's just, yeah, I think I'm really, really glad I've got these. I think these are decks that it's a bit like some of my, you know, also my mass market purchases. There are some decks like the Crow Tarot, which to this day I'm not bored of. I'm not bored of that deck. For me, that's value for money. Like 2 years on, if I'm not bored of it, it's value for money. So anyway, And then finally, I've got to show you. I then went, of course, ahead and bought this one. This was just a few weeks ago. And this is the 6th edition. So I've got 2, 4, 6 editions. It's just, yeah, it's how it's worked out. And again, you know, just this is of course the twin to the Light Visions, but in color. So we're just gonna see some of the same cards again, but now in color, and it's just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And I'm just so happy, you know, that instead of sitting on the fence, I bought it. So these are FOMOs, but they worked out. But, you know, again, you know, if somebody's asking me, you know, how do I control and limit it? I always say, because I don't try and buy them all at once. And I sometimes am tempted to. Right now, there's a set at the local indie store that now I want that set. I want all of them. And I've had to say to myself, well, no, I'm going to have to save up now. So, you know, that, and then my head goes into, but it's indie and it's an indie stockist in the EU, and this is the lowest price, and then the price is going to drive up, and then you're not going to get it, and then somebody else is going to have it, and they're going to have this, and you know, my head does all of that stuff, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, you know. And then I talk to people, and they remind me, remember, you know, you can slow down, and you know, so I say another way to limit is talk to your friends, allow people to say to you, you know, like, you know, help me climb down the fence, or whatever that expression is, and so I don't make another purchase that's unnecessary. And it goes back to that, right? So, and so, yeah, so, you know, I also believe that, like, FOMO is all about, like, this guilty secret. Don't make it such a guilty secret, and it helps, I guess. That's me. Okay, so anyway, last question. I'm sorry, I've dribbled on and on and on. What are your thoughts of the state of deck buying or FOMO in the community? My thoughts are, I will keep it sweet and simple. One is there are many people who have been doing tarot for a very long time. Some of them have very large collections, wonderful. Some of them have very small collections, wonderful. I believe that there is a certain approach that they either camp or all those camps are having, which I respect, and it's like, whatever. There is another section of the tarot community where some of us, like myself, I believe I'm not the only one, we didn't have access to decks for so long that now that we're getting them, we're like, oh my God, wow, like our minds are going, because we like Tarot Oracle, but there were many years where we just could not purchase this stuff. So we're enjoying it, and there's a bit of a playground, and we're also realizing, like myself as well, like I had 5 decks for 5 years, and now I've got over 100 decks in 2 years. I'm like, come on. So even myself, I'm going to myself, okay, reduce. So right now I'm selling ones that I'm not using. I'm like, okay, let's pass them on. Let's start getting them out there. So yeah, and they're selling as well, which I'm very happy about. So, you know, there's that aspect. So there's certain people in that area. There are also tarot and oracle people coming into this community, which I personally think are new, but they're learning and wanting to become readers or whatever, collectors. That's a whole nother set of people. But finally, I want to say this. I think there's a lot of people who this is not their area, but the whole push and this whole industrialization, commodity marketing behind this whole area of spirit, art, whatever you want to call it, is meaning that there are people buying decks and they don't even know why they're buying them. They're not even, I think there's not even maybe an interest in this whole learning 78 cards and all of this, and how I think it's just a bit of a fad thing going on. Maybe I'm going to get crucified for saying that. You know, please don't hunt me down in the community, you know, in the tarot village. You're going to come at me with pitchforks. Please don't do that. But I just believe some of this is so fad driven, and I'm like, you know, when I see people who are like buying stuff and they haven't even learnt the cards, I'm like, and you've got like 30 decks ordered on Kickstarter, I'm like, okay, all right, okay. So I'm going to stop there, 40 minutes in, been long enough. I hope you enjoyed my little rant and discussion. It's just thoughts, it's just opinions. I'm going to change my own opinion and thoughts probably in a few months' time or whatever. You know, just please, you know, wherever you land on this debate, please don't punish yourself. Remember, we're here to also enjoy what we buy and we purchase, or what we are receiving from gifts, whatever. And also, you know, don't think you have to keep up with anyone. Nobody does. I really respect people who have 20 decks and they love that. They have 3 decks and they love that. They have one, whatever, you know. So I believe that our link to the cards and enjoying them and finding the experience, right? The experience of the tool is really what it's about, and having that discussion with friends and having a laugh and just joking, that's all part of it for me. And that's what I would miss. That's the fear of missing out. And I don't need 100 decks for that. Even I recognize that. So, you know, it's also part of my own learning. Some people have collections of 500 decks and they're okay with it. And I don't want to judge someone either for that. So just please note that. I'm just talking about my own experience of like, I enjoy the discussions with others and I enjoy the chat, and I'm really grateful that I can do that right now in my life. So thank you for listening and have a wonderful end of the week. Wishing you happy Thursday from Belgian National Day. Take care now. Bye.